Welcome to In Our Mom's Basement Video Game Podcast, where we talk about everything video games with your host, Dan Giofue and Rage Quit Pat.
It's time!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another. This is episode 45 of In Our Mom's Basement Podcast. I am Rage Quit Pat, and of course, we are also joined by the man who loves no pineapple on his pizza. That is Dan the Pizza Man. Dan, how are you, sir?
Well, it is a fact. Pineapple does not belong on pizza, so I would agree with that statement. I do not like that, and I am doing a fabulous.
Happy Halloween Eve, my friend. You have any nice Halloween plans for tomorrow? You have a costume all ready to go, or what's going on?
See, my job wasn't very clear on if we can wear costumes or not, so I'm just going to be dressed as a pizza. I'm just going to walk in as a pizza.
All right. Well, and that is why he is Dan the Pizza Man. We got a lot to talk about today. There was a lot that happened this month in gaming news. Some games dropped. Of course, Outer Worlds, which has pretty much been the besides Call of Duty, one of the talked about games. Been waiting for an RPG like this. Of course, WWE 2K20 has been such a failure and a fiasco. Of course, on Twitter, hashtag fix WWE was trending on Twitter a couple weeks ago, so that was big. And of course, the new Call of Duty dropped. Dan, what are your thoughts on the new Call of Duty so far?
I've been playing it a lot, actually, and I'm quite enjoying it, but I cannot deal with the crossplay of not being able to choose what consoles I want to play with, because I don't want to play with PC players. I absolutely do not want to play with PC players, but I cannot choose, so that kind of upsets me. But overall, I'm really enjoying the game. I do like the game a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you. So the PC players, so far I could kind of tell the difference on who's playing on PC and who's playing on console, because I could just a couple of the kill cams have shown me guys are pretty quick in aiming down scope, and they're running a little bit faster. So I do agree with you there. One thing I can't stand is team deathmatch. They need to fix the spawn systems. They need to do something, because team deathmatch, which at one point was probably one of my favorite game types, is now my least favorite game type. I cannot play TDM anymore.
Oh, I play Headquarters. Headquarters is where it's at.
Headquarters isn't bad. I actually started to fall a little back in love with Search and Destroy again. Cyber Attack is annoying. You definitely need a squad for that.
Oh, I like Cyber Attack. It's a fun mode, though. I enjoy that one.
It is, definitely, but you do need a squad for that one that knows what the hell they're doing. Domination, ever since Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 back years ago, has been my favorite game mode for a while. So, but definitely a good game in the right direction. This is definitely what they needed, kind of reboot the series. So, all in all, I'm happy. And you did touch a little bit on Outer Worlds. How do you feel about Outer Worlds? I love it so far. But the game is very deep, very deep.
Yeah, I played about 3 hours. Small spoilers. I just actually got to my ship and everything. I launched off in the next planet. So I'm really enjoying it. I mean, as I thought, like a single-player game, I was like, I'm not really into single-player games that much, but this game is actually a lot of fun. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, it's deep. The only thing is, if you're not a fan of a lot of dialogue, definitely the game's not for you. The game does have a lot of dialogue. So, if you're not a fan of that, then definitely the game's not for you.
I think I made a boo-boo in that game, because when you first start and you go through the little cave and you see the guy who's injured that's sitting there?
Yeah, I popped him in the head.
I shot him in the head.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, okay. Like, it wasn't just me who shot him in the head.
No,
okay.
I popped him in the head too, but you don't lose that much, the space, I forget the squad, you don't use that much reputation with them. For killing
I just
him.
told him that he was dead.
Yeah, I did the same thing too. That's all right. You don't lose that much.
I'm not the only one.
You don't lose that much reputation. But real quick, and then of course the big thing on Twitter over the week was hashtag fix WWE 2K20, and I can confirm that the game is a complete disaster. The day I first started, your wrestlers the glitches weren't terrible when I first started, but they were bad. I mean, a couple of wrestlers were getting caught in the ropes. The hair clipping is definitely atrocious. I mean, the other day I was trying to stream it yesterday, and the run-ins, you couldn't do any run-ins. There was no way for me to do any sort of run-ins. It was glitched out. So there's that. It's just a complete disaster, and I get that Ukes did not work on it this time around, but this is, and then Dan and I are gonna talk about a such topic soon, later in the podcast. But if the game is not ready and you know it's not ready, it's getting absurd now. Like, this is probably one of the worst WWE games I've played in a while. Not to say that the 2K games have been good WWE games. The last good one I played was 2K14, and I know Dan and I previously tried to do our own universe mode, but you just can't do it. But this one's at its worst as far as glitches go. I mean, this one's bad, and this is definitely probably one of the worst WWE games I've ever played in a very long time.
Yeah, I'm happy I didn't play that one.
Yeah, 2K's got to get their heads out of their asses and do something with this game and this franchise. If they got to reboot the franchise, I mean, let's do that. But it's been a complete and utter disaster. But anyway, let's go on some topics that we like to talk about today before we kind of go into the horror stuff. Dan, you brought up Xbox All Access. What is the news on that? Xbox dropped that a couple days ago. What is going on with Xbox All Access?
Yeah, I remember for most people that are older like us. I mean, All Access used to be a thing back in the days, and then it shut down, and then it actually is coming back. And just to recap, what All Access is, it's basically if you still have an Xbox One original, or maybe an Xbox One S, and you want to do an upgrade to the X, the S, the all digital, well, now you could do that with monthly installments. So real quick cap of prices, the all digital Xbox will be $20 a month for 24 months, Xbox S $23 for 24, and the X will be $31 a month for 24 months. And the good thing is, if you get the X, you can upgrade within 12 months, and that's towards a new console with a upgrade feature to it. So you can pay the $31 a month for 12 months, and then jump to the Scarlet, trade in your X towards the Scarlet, and you'll just have to pay that remainder off for the Scarlet, which is super awesome. And then you get the 24 months of Xbox Ultimate Game Pass, which that's $15 alone, I believe.
Yes.
15, yeah. So that's 15 alone. So you're really paying $16 a month for an Xbox One X. I mean, that's a fucking deal. I mean, that's awesome news. So I mean, that's really cool thing coming out of Xbox. I'm glad that they brought that out, and I would definitely do it if I didn't have the X already. But it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, and that also drops November 17th. You can start doing that, and it's going to be on Amazon only for the first few months, I guess, and then it's going to go to other retailers.
And yeah, that does sound good. Definitely sounds like a bang for your buck there. So let's talk about some other nonsense news that happened as well in this month. Did you see that Fallout 76 $100 subscription service that they try to sucker people into doing, and for them to create their own private lobbies? Did you see that?
Yeah, but apparently it's not so private, so
No.
That is just crazy.
No, so there was a couple articles that came out on Reddit and around the community, and as Dan just touched on, it is not private. So far, there's been some players that have encountered random people just joining their lobby that they have no idea who they are. And just mind you, Bethesda was trying to charge, I believe it was $13 a month or $100 for the year for a game that was already free to play. And also on top of that, the game at the time when it first came out was $60. Fallout 76, long story short, has been such a disaster with the fiasco now with that GameStop Collector's Edition, the helmet creating mold. So, and then on the cherry on the top is this subscription service that let you create a private lobby where you could have just your friends or whoever you invited into the lobby, and you could just, do everything yourself, play just yourself to avoid the toxic community. Well, No. So that $100, I mean, what could I say this? You're probably better off taking a $100 bill and taking a dump, wiping your ass with it, and then flushing it down the toilet. I think that is a better use of the $100 than this $100 subscription service. I mean, Dan, what in God's name has happened to Bethesda?
I mean, I would never do anything like that. I mean, that's just a way to have him. It's more like a pay-to-win type of thing, because they're also like giving you like unlimited storage, and they're giving you atoms per month. Like, I mean, what's the point of the game at that point if you're not going to play with people? And if you do want to play with people and it's not even private, like, Bethesda needs to get their head out of their ass and make a game that's actually work and that is fun again, because this Fallout 76 was pretty doo-doo.
I mean, you talk about a company that was at a very high, as now at a very bad low. So, we really highly recommend not to do this subscription. I mean, I just think it's ridiculous anyway that you're going to charge full price for a game that was not even finished, and then you're on top of that, almost a year later, you're going to charge people $100 to... I can't. It's just unbelievable.
Well, at least it's $100 for a year. I mean,
but that is unreal. Like, that is just a big slap in the face. And you know why they do this? Because we allow them to do crap like this, and we need to get more vocal. And this bull crap just needs to end. So please do not do it. I mean, just look online. There's been just so many problems. It's not worth it. Like I said, you're better off probably burning $100 or eating it at that point than doing that. So that was a disaster.
Yeah, no go.
Another, I would call this one, and you know what? The crowd has spoken on that news. That's how they feel. Also, other news as well. I would kind of say this is good news. Ubisoft delays Watch Dogs, Rainbow Six Quarantine, and Gods vs. Monsters after the poor feedback that they have received from the Division 2 and Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And I know, Dan, we shared this news on our Twitter, of course, when the news broke. I think this is good news. I think the big issue is, especially with Ubisoft, and I mean other games too as well, the games are getting rushed out. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You look at WWE 2K20, you look at Fallout 76, you look at Anthem, you look at a plethora of games. Games are getting rushed out, and look at what has happened. Dan, I told you about Ghost Recon Breakpoint. It is a big pile of steaming shit. I
played a little bit of it.
What were your thoughts?
I don't think I've played enough. I played maybe 2 or 3 missions. I haven't played enough to judge it myself, but from the feedback I'm getting, I haven't picked it up since.
I mean, it's just... So, Wildlands was interesting for them to do a game like that, because realistically, that was not Ghost Recon. Ghost Recon, in a sense, was almost like Rainbow Six, except it was a little bit more linear, a little bit more open, I should say, and it was third person. That was more of the big difference between Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon. And then obviously they brought out Wildlands, which was open world, and you had a squad, and even if you were playing alone, you had your squad with you. Now, the big problem with Breakpoint is that you're alone, but technically you're not, because you have a base with all other players doing the same exact shit. So is this Division 2, or I don't know. But that aside, you're traveling long distances. There's no radio, so you can't kill time with music. There's no squad, so there's no banter back and forth. The glitching is absurd. And what Wildlands had and what Breakpoint doesn't, and I know you remember in Wildlands, remember those random little side missions you could do, like the green missions you could do in between missions?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have that in Breakpoint. They have nothing. I don't know if they fixed it, but They have nothing like that in between. All the other things you could do is just go and pick up weapon attachments or guns. There's no random side missions to do in between the regular missions. And I'm not talking about side missions where they tell you, oh, go kill this guy, go do that. No, there was random side missions in Wildlands where it was a stop a convoy, such and such, things like that. The game was just such an utter disappointment, and I should have waited for more reviews to come out before jumping the gun. Man, was I disappointed. The Division 2, I wasn't as disappointed, but again, my feelings on the Division 2 is that it was a flop, and I'm actually happy Ubisoft is pushing back these games to make sure they're finished, they're done, because as much as we make fun of Rockstar for pushing games back and Naughty Dog, their games are done when they come out. So I think it's good news. How do you feel on the news about the delays and such?
Well, I would prefer a delay than a broken game, so delay doesn't bother me as much, but if you're going to delay a game, set a reasonable date. Just don't make close to it and then delay it again. Not like one delay, fine, but I see companies do multiple delays on top of multiple delays. That's not okay. One delay is fine because I would rather have a working game than a bug game.
But isn't it sad that we're in a time now where we look back then? If a game's got delayed, we were pissed, like we were angry if a game got delayed. Now, if a game gets delayed, we're like, oh, okay, cool. We have to just make sure it's finished. Like, isn't that crazy? It's 2019, and we're happy that a game gets delayed. It's been multiple games are getting delayed.
Well, it's because we have so many other games that we need to finish playing.
Well, that's good too. But then also in the fact that the games just aren't finished either.
Yeah, that happens with almost every game these days.
It's like we're so happy, like, oh my gosh, like, good, the game is delayed. Thank God. And before, if a game got delayed, we were relatively angry. So I'm happy, and I do hope that the next that Rainbow Six Quarantine does look really good. So I am excited about that. And I'm looking for.
Yeah, I want to play the Halloween one. That's what I want to try. I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely excited to give those a try and see how they are.
It ends tomorrow, the Halloween one at least.
I think so. Yeah, I might give that a try tomorrow on the Spooktacular Halloween stream tomorrow. So give that a shot.
Spooky.
Yeah. And then before we kind of go into our final news, let's run down the games of November. Oh, and the crowd has something to say about the delays. What do they have to say? The crowd is very happy with the game delays. All right, Dan, you want to run down the games in November?
Sure. All right. So next month, which is in 2 days, we got Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 on the Switch, of course, November 5th. Death Stranding for PlayStation 4, November 8th, which also Death Stranding will be released on PC next year. Need for Speed Heat will be November 8th on all systems except the Switch. Pokemon Shield, Pokemon Sword, November 15th on the Switch, which I will be picking up. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order will be November 15th on all consoles except Switch, which looks promising. Pat's favorite game that he's going to be super excited for is Shenmue 3, November 19th. PlayStation and PC. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts, November 22nd on all consoles except Switch.
So yeah, as you mentioned it, yes, Shenmue 3, I have waited a very long time, and I can't believe it's almost finally here. I can't contain it. I played the first two again on the remaster. But my God, I can't wait. I'm so excited for that game. I've waited so long for that damn game, and rest assured I'll probably be streaming it, and I'll probably be so excited for every minute of it. As you said before too, Dan, yeah, Star Wars Fallen Order does look interesting. I am a little bit nervous though, however, with the Star Wars games, because we all know lately how the Star Wars games have been, and they haven't been good. The last couple Star Wars games, let's run it down here. Force Unleashed 2, trash. Star Wars, I think the Old Republic also came out around that time frame. It's better now, but before when it first came out, it was bad. And then we got Battlefront, trash, and Battlefront 2, trash. So, here's hoping that Fallen Order could break the mold. And Dan, you mentioned about Pokemon Shield or Sword. Which one are you getting?
I'm probably gonna get Sword.
What's the difference? I'm not really into my in-depth Pokemon style as I once was back in my 10-year-old when I was 10 years old.
I think the only really big difference is you get different Pokemon at the start. But other than that, I don't think there's too much of a difference.
Well, that's very exciting. Did you pre-order it?
No, I'll just walk into GameStop and pick it up.
Oh. You're not going to get the pre-order bonuses?
Nah, I don't care about the pre-order bonuses.
Well, fuck it. And then, of course, we have the anticipated PlayStation 4 exclusive Death Stranding. Hiro Kojima, his own studio. He is back making his own game. Of course, he's separated from Konami, and his highly anticipated title starring Norman Reedus, Guillermo del Toro, and a few others. I think Conan O'Brien is also in it as well. So, yeah, Conan, he's in it. So that comes out as well. I am not, I was interested at first. I looked at some gameplay, just not my type of style. I really wasn't that interested in this game, so definitely not on my pickup list. And then Need for Speed Heat, who knows, because we haven't had a good Need for Speed game in a while. In my opinion, the only good racing game that you should be picking up is Forza. If you're an Xbox owner, but if you're a PlayStation owner, then definitely Gran Turismo. But Need for Speed, who knows? So far, next gen for Need for Speed has not done well. They came out, I believe, with Rivals. That one stunk. And then I think they came out with whatever the more recent one was a couple years ago, which another
Rivals has a pretty good fan base still. So
which one?
Rivals still has a pretty good fan base.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardcore audience. That's the thing with as I said, Battlefront 2 was trash, but they still have that hardcore audience. But no, I love Need for Speed. Don't get me wrong, but this one I would probably wait on the reviews, and I would not be surprised if it's on sale Black Friday right away.
Oh yeah, that's what happened last year too.
Pretty much. And now we go with something very, very interesting. The Google Stadia is launching November 14th. The founders will pay $130 for first dibs. Now, Dan, I know you're a tech geek, a tech junkie. What is your thoughts on the Google Stadia? And I'm not going to compare it to the Ouya, because that is in its own separate horrible category. But what are your feelings on the Google Stadia before we kind of run down the explanations that go on? Damn it, I can't speak today.
I checked out the Google Cloud base, and it is going to be the 130 for the Founder Edition. Was the Founder Edition is just a different skinned remote, and it's going to be 3 months of premium with it. After that, it's going to be $10 a month. But the thing with this is, if you don't have the internet, do not get it, because you won't be able to play the games. So they're recommending around 10 to 15 megabytes, which is pretty standard these days. But that's only for 720. If you want 1080, you're going to have to go to 20-25 megabytes a second. And then if you want higher than that, you're going to have 35 megabytes to even think about hitting 60 frame 4K, good sounds. So if you don't have the internet, it's really not worth it. And I have Shadow, which is the cloud-based gaming PC, and that's been working wonders. But then for me, I also have good internet, so they didn't really release on how many games are going to come out. I mean, they did have a small list of games, one of them being Destiny. But going back to, if you don't have the internet, it is really not worth it.
These are the ones they actually announced. I actually have the list right here for some of the games. Actually, I'll run down real quick. For Bethesda, they're gonna have Doom Eternal, Rage 2, ESO, and a couple other games as well. Cyberpunk. I mean, I think the big selling points for this was that Destiny 2, Cyberpunk. People who play Farming Simulator, don't worry, this Farming Simulator will be on there. Red Dead Redemption 2, which is really interesting, but I mean, I think the Google Stadia, I think, is more towards people that don't want to pay a crap ton of money for a console. Like I get, the Xbox, PlayStation. So, I really don't look. I know some people were like going out of their minds, like, oh my god, I really don't look at this as competition. I think this is only for a certain market, and we'll see where it goes from there. But definitely, they're definitely very interesting. And I know a lot of people. Google is obviously very trustworthy, so I know a lot of people have high expectations for this.
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna throw in some other news real quick. Is I got accepted into the Xbox game streaming. So I've been testing that out, and what that is basically, if I'm at work or out in the world, I can load up my Xbox on my phone and play games from my phone. So I've tested it actually with Outer Worlds, and I gotta say, it works fucking fantastic. Like, I was playing Outer Worlds at work, just fine, having a blast. So it worked really well.
And wait,
so
the controller's on the phone?
No, you have to have a controller. Like, you can attach your Xbox controller, or you could buy a third-party controller.
Oh, okay.
It just has to be Bluetooth-enabled controller. But it worked really well. Very enjoyed it. And what's going on, buddy?
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I thought it was like one of those where it would pop up on the screen. That's what I thought.
Yeah, you have to have a Bluetooth controller.
Oh, okay. All right, makes sense. But anyway, that seems to be the news. And now it's going to get a little spooky on the podcast as we enter in the spooky version of this podcast. We are going to talk about some of our favorite spooky games. We're going to highlight some, but of course we're going to have our top 5 spooky games. Being that this is Spooktober. So, without further ado, let's kind of get this going here. Do you want to throw in some honorable mentions, Dan, for some spooky games that you could kind of pop out?
Honorable mentions. Ever do Resident Evil? I don't know. Let me get back to that one. That's a good one. There's some in there that just dug away. Well, I'll get to that one.
I'll throw out the more recent one, Blair Witch. Blair Witch actually was really good.
Oh yeah, that was actually really good. I was enjoying it. I was playing on PC for quite a while.
Definitely a mind fuck at the end. But all in all, a very good underrated horror game. And if you have Xbox Game Pass, I would recommend downloading it. If not, it's only $30. Story is really well done. The atmosphere, and I would recommend playing it with a headset. Highly recommend playing it with a headset. But more recent one,
in your mom's attic says Silent Hill. That's a very good game too.
Of course, yeah. Well, definitely Silent Hill. So definitely. We're going to talk about that in a second. But
I would say Until Dawn. Until Dawn was a good game too.
Until Dawn was very good. Until Dawn, if you love B-rated horror, it's like a B-rated horror movie, but it has a really good cast. It has Rami Malek, Hayden Panettiere is in it as well. So and also Man of Medan. also,
yes, that was such a good game
that we played as well. And then the horror anthology will continue, of course, with the next one that's coming out, I believe, in next year. So they're continuing. So, and also, if you've never played The Thing, the video game, definitely there's so many. There's a lot of good, really good horror games.
All right, I got one more. One more. Left 4 Dead. All right, that's my all-time, probably one of my top favorite games. I don't know how I forgot that.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is that horror. So, Left 4 Dead could be a horror game, and it could also be in the zombie game category. So, both those games could be in 2 separate categories, which is good. But Left 4 Dead was phenomenal. I wish they would make a 3, unfortunately. But you know what? We got World War Z. World War Z was very underrated. Really enjoyable game. A lot of fun. So instead of get Left 4 Dead 3, at least we got World War Z, which I thought was which I think is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it was fun. I beat that game super quick, man. I enjoyed the hell out of that game.
Yeah, I mean, also you look at all the other the Dead Rising games, of course, were good. There's a lot. I mean, a lot of good horror games. But let's begin with number 5. Dan, what is your start on your horror games?
I would probably say Outlast is probably my number 5. Have you played Outlast on the Xbox?
Yeah, Outlast I've played. I really like Outlast. Outlast 2, unfortunately, was a disappointment. It was, for me, when I first played Outlast, it was new for me. One of the first games I played where there was no combat. You couldn't fight back, and it was very tense.
Yeah, it's like I'm very puzzled.
Yeah.
It's like one of those solve that, solve this type of thing.
Yeah, and then you also had people chasing you, and you kind of had to worry, is this person behind me, and such. You had to hide. So it was very interesting. Definitely new concept into the game, in the gameplay. I never played a game like that, but that was definitely a good introduction for that type of style.
Yeah, that game always fucking creeped me out, man. I couldn't deal with that in the dark.
Well, the fact also you were in I think an insane asylum as well, so the setting also fit the gameplay style as well. So it was new for me. It was fresh. However, I was disappointed in Outlast 2, unfortunately. But the first game definitely set the standard for me. And you take a look at other games that kind of follow suit, like Blair Witch. Had that style. Resident Evil 7 went first person. A lot of people at first were upset, including me, thinking that Resident Evil was going Outlast style, which, boy, was I wrong. It turned out, Resident Evil 7 turned out great. So, yeah. I mean, Outlast was good.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the tops. One of those games that actually scared the shit out of me.
My top 5 is The Condemned. Have you ever played The Condemned?
Sounds familiar. I know it's an older game.
So, The Condemned came out on 360 and PC, and it was made by Sega. Definitely very, very underrated game. You were a detective trying to figure out, you were going after a serial killer. Very underrated. It was in the game where you didn't have any guns. You were more hand to hand. I think you did have guns. I'm an idiot. Or melee weapons. I apologize. You had melee weapons, and the combat was okay. Combat wasn't bad, but just the atmosphere. You're going through certain corridors, and you had all these other criminals after you as well, and it was just very tense. Again, I didn't at that time. I didn't really play too many first-person survival horror games, so it was very, very underrated. So that cracks my top 5 with the atmosphere alone. There was one mission where there was all mannequins surrounding you, and if you're alone in the dark and you're walking through a corridor with all mannequins, it's never good.
Yeah, I just checked. That one I haven't played. Disappointing. So yeah, I think my next one will probably, as we talked about a little bit before about the game, Resident Evil 7. Man, that game, fucking, I don't even think I couldn't even play it for an hour straight because I got scared, man. I don't get scared easily, but this gave me some jump scares. And then they were good at that jump scares, man. Especially, I remember one part when you're in the garage trying to find the keys to escape, and that motherfucker just running at you, jumping you down, and you're just trying to survive. Oof. That game scared the shit out of me. Motherfuckers jumping out of the closets at you. Nah, I couldn't do it, man.
Yeah, man. Resident Evil 7 was definitely a rebirth into survival horror for Resident Evil. Obviously, Resident Evil 5 and 6 went to that action style gameplay, and a lot of people were very angry at that. Resident Evil 7 went back to its roots, and thank God they went back to its roots. And again, before, as I said, I was very skeptical about it going to first person. But yeah, man, those creatures were no joke, man. It was really good, and I was very happy. The back and forth, going back and forth to solve puzzles and had to conserve your ammo. Boy, man, was it welcome back. And then, of course, we had the Resident Evil 2 remaster as well this year, which was amazing as well. And it's good to see Resident Evil went back to its roots.
Yeah, man, it was very enjoyable, man. I really like it. I really like the way it came out, so I'm not really disappointed at that at all.
What was your take on the that new Resident Evil style? Now it's going to be 4-on-1. You're going to be able to pick different Resident Evil monsters, and then, you're going to have 4 survivors, kind of like that Friday the 13th, Dead by Daylight style of gameplay. What's your thoughts on that, real quick?
Actually, I'd never heard of this, but that actually sounds fucking awesome. I would definitely play that. The original concept always reminded me about like Left 4 Dead, and when you're playing as the monsters and you get to tear shit up, and you play against the people doing the story. It always reminded me like that, and I love that. I love that concept. So I'm really excited to see that in Resident Evil. Man, I didn't hear about this until now, and that's really awesome.
Yeah. So they didn't really say what all the monsters are, but they said that you're going to be able to pick from Resident Evil monsters, and there's going to be like 4 other survivors. So it's interesting they're going in that route as well. I know Predator is making a game like that as well too. There's going to be a Predator game like that too, which is also interesting.
Yeah, there was a game like that before that came out like on the Xbox a while ago, but it flopped so hard. I don't remember the name of it. That's why it probably flopped. But it was a game just like that. I can't remember. It's gonna bother me now.
Yeah, no, of course. Moons of Madness. No, what is that, Jade?
Oh, I've heard of Moons of Madness. It's on sale now, and I need to play it. It looks so freaking good. I need to play it.
My next one...
Oh,
yep.
Evolution. Evolve. Sorry, Evolve. That's what the game was called.
Evolve. Oh, my God. Please don't get started on that freaking game. That game was horrible.
Yes.
That game was... So I remember I played that game, and I was literally running around the map for 15 minutes, and I didn't get into any... It was bad. That game flopped hard.
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
My next one I'm going to put on my list is Fear 2. Not the first one, the second one. Second one, oh man. And yes, it is a first-person shooter, but it has a lot of horror elements. That little girl, I mean, you talk about people, like little girls scaring you in horror movies and games. She freaks me out. And then, of course, you get the twist at the end about her backstory, which is insane. I mean, the game is really underrated. If you have not played any of the Fear games,
I love the Fear series.
Fear 1 was so good. Fear 2 kicks up the horror up a notch. Fear 3 just gets batshit crazy. I really wish they would
these games. I wish those games would get ported over. Those games were really good, and not a lot of people talk about them. And they were really good. The gameplay was very good. The gameplay worked. You had powers. Fear 3 was good. Jade, it kicks it up. There's co-op in Fear 3, so it was different elements. But Fear 2 out of the trilogy is up there for me. And Dan, we have to get rid of that notification because it is no longer July.
That is all right. So I think my next one would probably be Slenderman.
The movie?
No, the fucking movie. I haven't even watched that shit. No, I'm thinking the 8 Pages, or it's a hard choice between that one and the one on the Xbox One. They're both good games, but Slenderman was a lot of fun, man. I enjoyed Slenderman a lot. Unfortunately, I have not watched the movie. Maybe one day I will, but the reviews that thing is getting, I think right now I'll take a good hard pass.
I've never played Slenderman. Is that crazy? I've never played it.
I don't know how you don't play it. It's such a good game. It's like it's kind of like Outlast type of style, like where you gotta solve that puzzle and you gotta find these clues in order to venture on and move on. So it's like that.
Which one's that? What does that say?
What does what say? Did I lose you, Pat?
Oh, no, I'm here. Visage? No, I don't think I've ever played that one.
It's a PS4 Xbox game that came out last year, I think. I think it came out last year. But I think I've seen it around. I've never played it, but I don't know too much about it. I had so many heart attacks playing it. Oh no! See, Pat, you should be playing that tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I love horror games. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the list goes on of how many good horror games. For me, I would probably add on my list Dead Space 2. Rest in peace, Dead Space. Rest in peace, Visceral. The developing company is gone. EA freaking destroyed Dead Space with that abomination of Dead Space 3. But the first one was really good, but the second one is just phenomenal because the marker in the game has infected you, so you're seeing your wife, and your wife is jump scaring you here and there. Plus the gameplay was very innovative. At that time, there really wasn't a game where the only way to kill the monsters is you had to cut their limbs. So there really wasn't a game like that. It was more of like, shoot them in the head, or shoot them in the body. There really wasn't a game like that where you had to chop their limbs, and the weapons were innovative. And of course, Dead Space 2 has the scene where you have to put a needle through his eyeball, and of course, it has that fantastic death scene if you fuck up. And you could see his eyeball get completely yanked out of his head. So it's a phenomenal game. And if you have not played it, it is backwards compatible. So I will highly recommend playing the first two. Dead Space 3 you could skip. That one just sucked.
Oh, that was your favorite one, though.
So, I mean, in the sense that the gameplay was fine. It's just like the co-op gameplay was cool because the co-op gameplay, you saw two different things were happening. Something would happen with your co-op partner that you would not see. Something would happen with you that your co-op partner would see. So that was cool. But then it turned into an action adventure game, and it was stupid.
Yeah, so I can't really talk about Dead Space since you already know I really haven't played a Dead Space game before, so except that one time where I played.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's backwards compatible. 100% highly recommended. It was really good. And unfortunately, again, the developing team is dead, and the franchise is dead, unfortunately.
Oh no. So my next one kind of relates to yours a little bit, but I gotta say, Fear 1, for me at least, was one of my favorite Fear games out there, just because I remember playing it as a younger Dan the Pizza Man, younger Dan Pizza, and I was young, so that game kind of gave me the fucking chills, man. I used to always want to go over to my cousin's house to play that. So that game has a little special place in my heart. Always, I love the Fear series. I wish they would make another one. And Fear 1, the best one, hands down.
Yeah, no, as we touched on earlier, Fear 1 was new for me. When I first picked up Fear, I saw the cover art, and I was like, huh, this looks really interesting. I was thinking it was a first-person shooter because I saw the gameplay, but no. Not even the slightest was it a first-person shooter. I was completely blown away with the gameplay. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. They're showing, a first-person shooter like this. Excuse me.
Yeah, dude, it was incredible.
Yeah, the first-person shooter, I was like, wow. First-person shooter that could have survival horror elements. Like, that's really good. And at the time, I didn't really see anything like that either. It was really good. What?
No, go ahead.
Now, as we wind down, I have to put Silent Hill 2 up there. Silent Hill 2, I played it as a kid. Had the strategy guide, back when we had to get strategy guides, and there wasn't YouTube or anything like that. Silent Hill 2 stands out there for me for the ending alone. And that introduced Pyramid Head as well. So when I freaking first saw Pyramid Head, just say that I was like, crap, I better start playing this game during the day. And of course the ending, basically the premise is that your husband, you're playing, I forget the guy's name, but you get a call from your wife. They'll come to Silent Hill, but your wife has been dead for several years. So you go to Silent Hill. Spoiler alert, if you had not played the game, this is a warning. The ending, you come to find out, is that you killed your wife the entire time. So you're going through the entire game thinking, and this was like the first mind fuck of an ending I've ever experienced, especially as a little kid. That in the entire game, you're going through the game, you're going through the motions, and then you come to find out that you are the murderer the entire time. And again, this game was remastered. Fuck the remaster, because they changed the voice actors. The remaster it was a bad port. Find your PlayStation 2, play the original. After Silent Hill 2, unfortunately, that's when the series for me died. I tried to play 3. 3 was okay. Silent Hill 4 The Room was horrendous. And then we got those 2 garbage ones on 360, Homecoming and Downpour, I think it was. And then we got so excited for PT, and Konami just bent us over and shoved the broomstick up our ass. So,
yeah, pretty much. You didn't like it, huh? Yeah, the 360 ones weren't really entertaining.
It was boring. They weren't scary. They were boring.
Well, boring as hell. So I would probably, before I give my last one, I want to do one more honorable mention, and that's because as we were talking about this, a game popped in my head from Wii, and that was House of the Dead.
Well, that's the arcade, man. That's a classic right there, man.
That was a fun game. I still actually have that, and I still have the Wii gun. So I had so much fun playing House of the Dead. I played it all the time. That shit was so much fun. Or Typing of the Dead. I don't even know what that is.
Typing of the Dead's the same game, except you have to type it.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, same game, except instead of like being on the rail like shooting, it was you had to type in the words. So that was like an interesting take on the series that they tried.
That is interesting. So to finish my list, we have very similar lists overall, but mine is my top one is Silent Hill, number 1. We're going back, to the PlayStation day. That was a fun game, man. That That game was probably one of the most scarier ones I played as a child. And
Silent Hill 2,
Silent
Hill 1 was no joke.
The creepiest shit you would see in that game. My mom did not want me playing that when she was around. She was like, "Turn that shit off right now." I'm like, "Mom." That game had a special place, man. That game was so much fun.
Yeah, I remember watching my uncle play that game, and I'm like, what the hell are these freaking monsters? Like, what the hell? Like, what are these monsters coming after you? And it was just like, there was like a loud bell when the monsters were around. There was like these freaking birds, and it was like the only bad thing I would say about Silent Hill was the melee combat. They never, in any of the games that they came out with, fixed the melee combat. But all in all, part 1, man, that was a freaky game, man. That was.
It truly was.
I really wish they would remaster that. That's one game I wish they would remaster. Out of all the games they love to remaster, I really wish we would get a Silent Hill remaster.
Hey man, they're remastering everything. Why not give us Silent Hill?
Couple other honorable mentions if you guys have not played. Evil Within is also a very good underrated series. I would recommend the first and second one. The second one is a little bit more open world, but it's very linear, and you get a little bit more side quests. Fatal Frame. If you guys have never played Fatal Frame, that game would make you crap your pants. Alan Wake is a big one. I loved Alan Wake. Alan Wake, developer Remedy, just wow, really good. That was a really good game. And of course, Eternal Darkness. The Suffering, there you go, buddy. The Suffering was so good too, man. That game was insane. There's just a lot of good horror games, and those are just a couple other ones. Even Doom 3. So everyone remember? No, Doom is like this big, run and gun shooter. Doom 3 actually took a step back and went survival horror, and I loved it. Doom 3 is really good. It's more survival horror than anything else. So
I used to play Doom on a floppy disk when I was younger.
Yeah. But Doom 3 Doom 3 changed the gameplay. It went more survival horror. A lot of people were mad because they were so used to the run and gun gameplay style and everything like that. But Doom 3 was really good. And yep, Alien Isolation also was very good. There's more. There's a long list of horror games we could talk about that we're missing. I know people are big fans of Layers of Fear.
There's a Fatal Frame.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people love those games. Little Nightmares, I know people got into as well. But my number one, and we'll play some music, I'm sure. Hopefully chat knows the music here, and hopefully they can kind of figure this out. And who listens to the podcast on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, Snatcher, and all the others. Sorry, Dan, you didn't lose me. That's just that's one of the best. That's one of the best save room music of all time, and Resident Evil 2. And I'm gonna have to. You're gonna ask me the old one or the remake. Now, I think they're both completely different games, and I think Resident Evil 2, if you're gonna make a remake or / remaster, I think that is the perfect way to make it. Because they did it with Resident Evil 1. Now, it was more of a remaster because they added new enemies, but everything else was the same. Everything happened the same. Nothing really changed, but a couple new cutscenes and enemies and stuff like that. But Resident Evil 2 remaster, that's the perfect way to make a remaster game. The original is just that's what set the foundation for me going forward with the series. After Resident Evil 2, that's what got me into Silent Hill. All the other survival horror games that came down the list after that, and just I just think Resident Evil 2
did it perfect. I enjoyed the main characters a little bit more, as much as I did love Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine. I liked Leon and Claire Redfield. And I also liked, the multiple times to play it to get the different endings as well. It was really good. I mean, everything about it was phenomenal. And again, if you have not played Resident Evil 2 Remaster, definitely go and get it and play it. It is how a remaster game should be made going forward.
Agreed. I don't know that I haven't played it, but yeah.
It was, and right now for me, it was my game of the year until I played Outer Worlds. Right now I think Outer Worlds is my game of the year right now, but before that it was Resident Evil 2. But, yeah, it was, I just want to play horror games all the time. So even though it is October and it's coming to an end, definitely still be on the lookout for the Basement After Dark streams, of course, because there's going to be some more scary horror games. Yep.
I like horror games. No matter what time of the year it is, horror games are always fun to play.
Yeah, no, of course. October, it amps it up a little bit, but horror games are definitely great all the time, no doubt about it. But I think that's that runs it down. We had some news, we had some horror, spooky stuff, and I think that's going to end the podcast tonight. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Dan?
No, I don't think. I think I just want to add. I hope everyone has a wonderful Halloween tomorrow, and everyone gets some cavities.
Yep, I hope everyone wears a cute costume. Whoever's going to trick or treating, I hope you get some nice candy. As well as if you're going to work tomorrow, and they're giving away awards. Hopefully, you win that cool costume award, of course. So. Definitely.
Pizza. That's what I'm going to be, and I'm going to win.
And you could listen to this podcast on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, Spotify as well. And our next podcast episode is going to be November the 14th. We are going to have a guest enter in the man cave. I'm going to tweet. Well, I actually made the announcement. Grom will be the guest on our next podcast, November 14th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So, and I will be promoting it as well on Twitter. So, there is some news there.
Woo!
All right, I am Rage Quit Pat. That is Dan the Pizza Man. And I hope everyone has a wonderful Halloween. Take care, guys.
Happy Halloween.
You've just listened to the In Our Mom's Basement, a video game podcast with your host Dan Giofue and Rage Quit Pat.